What is going on, everybody? Hopefully, you guys are doing well out there. Would love to be joining you from the golf course at the current time, but unfortunately, my back just has not been cooperating recently. I tell people all the time, I've got the back of Tiger Woods. I just don't have the trophy case to match. I do have one golf trophy up there, but just one. Now, on today's show, look, there's a lot of things that we could be talking about. Fanatics has a new CEO. We've had a lot of ups and downs inside this hobby, and my brother's been doing a nice job bringing you all the scams, scandals, and shadiness that we have just seen over the last 6 months here in the hobby, let alone what we are about to see over the next 6 months. If you think things are going to slow down, I've got news for you. Things are only going to continue to accelerate. We're going to see more bankruptcies. We're going to see more defaults. We're going to see more scams. We're going to see breakers run off with cards. We are going to see the full gamut of scams in this hobby over the next couple of months, as long as gas stays at $6 a gallon and the price of food and energy and everything around the world just continues to go up and up in money. People will continue to get more and more desperate. We could talk about all of that, and we'll talk about bits and pieces of that on today's show. What I wanted to do was a reaction video of what we have on Twitter. Every week or so, Yank's chick or Suze gets on there and starts a quote card chat. Now, me being the self-absorbed money freak, selfish person that I am, no way am I going to participate with this type of thing on Twitter where I get paid absolutely nothing for my participation. I will bring my reaction to you, and along with some other reaction as well. So we'll walk through some of the responses that she got to some of her questions, and I'll give you my take. And as you can imagine, I'm probably going to disagree with a lot of the stuff out there. Let's start with question number one, and it's, how do you feel about the current state of the hobby? We'll bring up the first reaction here, and that's first one is Cards to Trade Dave, and he says the manufacturers seem to be trying to replace collectors with people who chase lottery tickets but don't care about the cards at all. That doesn't seem to be a good business model for the long term. I got news for you, Dave. They've been doing this for 2 decades, ever since the advent of modern cardboard with chase cards and autograph cards and jersey cards. It's been more and more of a hit-based hobby instead of long-term collectability, trying to chase different types of sets. It's strictly looking for that big, gigantic, one-of-one type lottery ticket hit. That is what's been driving the hobby over the past several decades, and I see that into the future. And Matthew Belk seems to agree with me. Not that it's my burner account, but this person does agree with me. He says the business model has worked pretty good for the lottery. I would agree on that. As a collector, I'm not a big fan of the companies catering to people trying to win big, though. I'm a fan. Look, these companies have such a broad market, have such a broad base of collectors. There's a certain base in this hobby that just loves the lottery ticket kind of big hit type mindset. And I got no problem with that. I do appreciate, especially companies like Topps that put out a fair number of sets throughout the years. While the prices continue to tick up on a lot of these sets, Topps does put out enough sets in baseball, in my opinion, that are affordable for the masses, for the set collector, for the team collector, for the specific player collector, that I think there's enough of choice out there for collectors. But Dave did bring up another good point. He says, yes, but what happens when there aren't enough end collectors to buy all the cards? Will people still buy lottery tickets that return a lot less than even now? He says, seems like a lot of trouble printing millions of cards nobody wants. That's kind of the strategy, right? Most cards that are made are worthless. In fact, probably well over 95% of them are worthless. And then the other 3 to 4% are worth between $5 and $50, essentially a sum that is not going to change any person's life. And then there's a higher echelon of card up there that the hobby obviously wants to try to get if you're in a break, if you're opening a pack. And it's kind of that Willy Wonka golden ticket factory stuff. Now, look, when we all are a fan of sports, we're all chasing these cards because we're a fan of certain athletes or certain sport. And there's one winner every year. There is one winner. One team goes to the Super Bowl, one team loses, another team wins. That's the nature of the game. Now, in terms of flippers and a lot of kind of dealer to dealer action, that certainly can drive up price. We've certainly seen that in kind of the luxury watch market as well. There's just been an advent of a lot of flippers and people inside that market that just drives up the price. Ultimately, if there's not enough people that want that item, whether it's a trading card, whether it's a watch, whether it's a car, whether it's any type of collectible out there, if there's not enough end consumers, what do we see with price? It will start to fall and it'll start to meet the demand that is there. And I think we're seeing that in trading cards right now. We're seeing demand falter and fall off a cliff. And until we see a bottom there, we'd expect that bottom to continue to go lower and lower. Now, PK Steinberg said he's still pretty baffled by the hobby. The current products aren't really affordable, seem not to be affordable, and do not represent my collecting interests at large. I tell you what, PK, I think you need another hobby. Because imagine if I sat here and I said, hey guys, I really like skiing. I don't like how expensive the bindings are. I need a lift ticket. I need a place to stay. I need a four-wheel drive car. I need all the gear and the sunglasses and the hat and the beanie. I need it all to be a skier, but all that stuff is too expensive. I think the people in the skiing community would probably tell me that maybe I need to work a little bit harder and maybe I need to get a better job. Nowhere in the Constitution, nowhere in the hobby, nowhere from Topps and Panini does it say anywhere that this hobby needs to be affordable. If a hobby is not affordable, if something you want is too expensive, I've got one very easy solution for you. Make more money, work harder, get some skills, improve your worth to society, and guess what? The money will start to flow in. Next response comes from sports card NFTs. Boy, I bet those tanked quite a bit over the last year as well. He says no one is buying it all and prices are falling. And Andrew followed up and said, yes, it's getting to be cards or gasoline. Inflation is screwing up the market and hardly anyone is buying like they were because of it. So obviously inflation is hurting things, okay? You could have done what I did and buy not one, but two Teslas over the past year. That would have solved your kind of gasoline problems. And my other response here is a lot of you guys were buying cards at the top. You were buying when Jeff Wilson was telling you this was the next great asset class that was going to replace stocks and real estate and crypto all combined. You guys were buying when these cards were selling at valuations the hobby, quite frankly, had never seen and certainly couldn't sustain over the long term. And now that prices are falling, you're starting to blame things like gasoline and food inflation. No, you need to make more money, get to work. These cards are not that expensive. They've gotten cheaper. And the old Wall Street adage still holds true today. Buy low and sell high. Most of you guys are out there doing it the wrong way and doing the opposite thing. You listen to Sasha T, you listen to Jeff Wilson, all during the hype of the sports card craze. You bought at the top, kept buying at the top. And now that prices are crashing, suddenly it impacts your ability and the funness in the hobby. You have the wrong mindset, not the hobby. Next one comes from Bandino, and he says, buy what you love. Flippers going to lose their shirts in this market. I agree with the first one, okay? Last year, I walked into a Rolex shop and he asked me which Rolex I wanted. I said I wanted a white gold Sky Dweller with a white dial. And the very next day, he said, guess what, buddy? If you come and wire me the money, you'll have that watch in a couple of weeks. Buy what you love. Wouldn't be everybody's first choice. In fact, this is a pretty rare watch because most people don't like it, but I love that type of thing. And that certainly applies to the sports card hobby as well. And certainly as we're seeing prices start to drop, guys, things should get even more exciting for you. His second point about flippers going to lose their shirts in this market is absolutely incorrect. The type of people that have lost their shirt are the Jeff Wilsons, the Sasha T's, all the other influencers here on YouTube. What were they telling you a year ago?
Anthony Davis is a player whose cards are criminally undervalued.
What were they telling you 2 years ago?
I think that Will Greer right now is about 4 times better of an investment than Kyler Murray.
They were selling buy and hold, this new asset class. Guys, these are long-term winners. Buy and hold for the long term. Wait till Luka goes to the Hall of Fame. Wait till Patrick Mahomes wins 5 Super Bowls and his cards are worth $20, $30, $40, $50,000. Some of these guys were saying, wait until he wins all NBA. Like anybody ever pays attention to that? Some of these people were telling you, wait till the playoffs.
What's that? Playoffs?
The playoffs. We saw this year, Steph Curry cards went down in the playoffs. Luka cards down in the playoffs. Tatum cards down in the playoffs. People that were in the playoffs, their cards went down. The buy and hold, the hold and hope mentality pushed by the Socrates, pushed by the Jeff Wilsons over the last 2 years has been an absolute disaster. The one probably bright spot in the market is the people that are in and out of these cards as fast as they possibly can. And I would actually argue today's market is actually the best from a quote investor or a flipper or a money-making perspective. You have a lot of desperate people out there. Their crypto has gone down. Their stocks have gone down. Maybe their salary has gone down, certainly in relation to inflation. Maybe they've lost their job. Gas is now $6 a gallon. People have lots less money today than they did a year or 2 years ago. Guess what that creates? Desperation. It takes people with cards that now want to liquidate them, and that creates opportunity for the flipper that sees kind of a price difference there. So actually, if you're a flipper, if you're a quote investor, you should be absolutely pounding the table at the current time saying people should be looking at this market and looking to get in. But what did you see over the last 2 years?
Amber, when it comes to Ben Simmons, I am buying.
Pure idiotic madness from the people like Sports Card Investor, Sasha T, Mojo Autographs, any of those freaking dorks. Many of them have quit on YouTube because they told you to buy at the top, and now they're telling you, be careful, guys. Be careful in this market. Guys, when price goes down, that's actually when you need to make your move. And when prices go up, all you should be talking about is selling your cards. Finally, a little bit of sense from Tim Sternberg. He says the hobby is very lopsided. New wax is outrageous in terms of its price, while singles are in the dump. I totally agree with this. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there. And certainly if you want to put on your Jeff Wilson investor hat and say, well, there's your opportunity there. If wax continues to stay at an elevated price, and I tell you what, I look at these licensing agreements, I look at the valuation over Fanatics, you think they're really going to lower their prices over the next couple of years? Absolutely not. And Tim continues, he says it's definitely a buyer's market for singles. That is absolutely correct. Guys, it was a seller's market for 2 years when Jeff Wilson and Sasha T and all these guys were getting on YouTube every day telling you to buy, buy, buy. That was a seller's market. You should have been selling your cards, selling your collection, especially if you'd been in this hobby for a very long time and you started to see just this jacking up of price and elevation of valuation on all your cards. You should have sold some. Now the market has reversed. I actually would contend it's a buyer's market. We don't necessarily need to jump into this pool with both feet and with scuba gear on or anything crazy like that, but we can certainly start to look and dabble or maybe start picking our spots when and if this market starts to see some evidence of some bottoming out. I think we still got a long ways to go there. To continue Tim's point, he says, for someone like me who sells singles, this isn't great. Well, I got news for you, Tim. This is not a seller's market. 2 years ago was a seller's market. So you need to change your strategy. You actually need to turn into a buyer and go look for the real distressed deals out there. The people that over leveraged themselves to card, bought too much of this stuff at the top, and now needs to liquidate to start paying for bills and paying for gas. That's where your opportunity is if you want to buy and sell singles. He says eventually, I'm sure it will catch up to breaks and new products. I think it'll catch up to breaks at some point because the manufacturers are going to keep their price point high, squeeze the margin out of the breaker, and eventually make loads of money while the breakers continue to scam and do crazy things. Well, folks, that wraps it up for this reaction video on the Card Chat. How do you feel about the current state of the hobby? folks, it is a buyer's market, certainly from a single card perspective. Certainly all this quote unquote junk slabs that are still filtering down through the PSA system. There's some buying opportunities there. Lots of distress sales to come. We'll probably see it after the National. There's probably people thinking they're going to go there and be able to unload a large amount of inventory, or maybe it'll be like years past. Well, there'll be lines out in front of Brian Gray's stupid booth for him paying you 30-40% off eBay. Guess what? Brian's going to be broke in August. He's not going to be buying cards. There's going to be very few people buying cards in the coming months ahead at the National. That is going to pull the rug underneath these values even more. You're going to see a cascading effect. And I think as we head into Q1, Q2 of next year, that will be when there's some fantastic buying opportunities in this hobby. And certainly you could start to make the argument that the pumpers were making 2 years ago, that some of this stuff has pulled back so far in valuation that, yeah, maybe you can buy it and hold it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Let the market kind of play out, and you see some price appreciation in cards over the slightly longer term, whereas we saw this stuff just get inflated like a bubble, and now we're seeing that bubble pop. And when bubbles pop, it actually turns out to be a good time to step in there and buy. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of you out there because you were trained by the sports card investors and the Sasha T's that told you to buy at the high, buy the hype, buy the high prices. That was when you sell. Now that we have lower prices, those same guys are now getting on there and telling you,
And sell those cards.
hey guys, be conservative. Maybe you should sell some cards and liquidate. No, you should have done that 2 years ago. You should be holding a big old bag of money right now, ready to pounce, ready to be aggressive when everybody is starting to play defense in the stock market, in the crypto market, in the baseball card market, in the Rolex watch market. Guess what, folks? Instead of playing defense with the crowd, guess what the winners will do? They'll go play offense. That was the show for today. We'll be back again soon with more. Good luck with your collections.